Good morning. It is so great to be with you all today. Stand back a little further. And the watchword for today is gratitude. Gratitude for this time that we get to spend together. Gratitude for all the hard work that all of you have done, even though we didn't get the outcome we wanted. And gratitude that we can continue to make good trouble from now on. I know that everyone in here deals with grief in their own way, in their own time. I went through the 5 stages in about 2 hours. Yes, those 2 hours were filled with a lot of profanity. But I remain an incurable optimist. While I was shaken by what our fellow voters did, I was stirred by the inspiration that came into my email box, our Facebook group, and other messages from leaders around the country who are Democrats, that this fight will go on. We will not ever give up. The stakes remain exceedingly high, and so do the obstacles and the perils, but I'm a look ahead, not a look back kind of guy. And here's one of the reasons for my optimism over the next few years. People are talking about, oh, it's going to be terrible in 4 years. No, I don't think so. I think that they have 2 years minimum to do some of the terrible things they're going to do, because in my view, cutting taxes for the rich again, trying to throw millions of people out of the country, which would collapse several industries that rely on that labor, continuing to attack everyone who's not like them, putting tariffs that are going to raise prices all over the place, is not a winning electoral strategy. It may have sounded good to the voters who voted for them at the time, obviously, but when it actually goes into effect, if any of it ever does, I think it's going to be a huge backlash in this country. And then there are those of us who already know how terrible this could be, who are going to keep fighting against them. So that would be all of us. So our mutual pain can be turned into purpose. Meanwhile, I ask you to be kind to one another, watch out for one another, because our country needs us, and we need our country to be better, and we are people who can help that happen. Would you please stand for our national anthem? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next slide, please. Veterans Day is Monday, of course, as you all know. So let us reflect and honor all those who have served in our armed forces. Thank you, and thank you to all who served. Next slide, please. I'm guessing we all knew that President Joe Biden would remain honorable to the end, and that he would acknowledge and accept the will of the people, unlike that other guy. Here's something from his remarks in the Rose Garden on Thursday. Campaigns are contests of competing visions. The country chooses one or another. We accept the choice. You can't love your country only when you win. And you can't love your neighbor only when you agree. Gratitude is our theme, and we must be grateful for Joe Biden, an extraordinary human being and an extraordinary president. Next slide, please. We also must be grateful to Vice President Kamala Harris. She conducted a whirlwind campaign with joy and skill. And I recommend, if you have not heard her concession remarks given at Howard University on Wednesday, that you do so. And I echo her determination to never give up. Next slide, please. Gratitude too to Nikki Fried, Florida Democratic Party Chair, who took over a difficult situation and did as much as humanly possible with her team and with all of us to try to change some outcomes. And she always said this would be a long-term project, that we shouldn't necessarily expect immediate results. So while we did not break the supermajorities in the legislature, and while amendments 3 and 4 did fail, both of those amendments had majority support from the voters. It's just that Florida has made it very, very difficult to get anything passed under the Republicans. So we will continue that fight. Next slide, please. Debbie McCarcel-Powell, she is here often. And if you want a starker contrast between two candidates with competing visions for how this country and state should be run, you couldn't find a bigger one, Debbie McCarcel-Powell and Rick Scott. Her emphasis coming out was, the fight is not ended, this is only the beginning. And I think that's a good theme to carry forward. Next slide, please. Robert Gervecki, who's the CEO of Central Florida's Planned Parenthood, came to the villages and held a fundraiser at a private home. And she is campaigning vigorously for years to try to get women reproductive rights and health choices made by women rather than by the government. She's not backing down, and she's sure you will not either. On a positive note, there were abortion rights amendments in 10 states on the ballot across the country. In 7 of those states, they passed. Next slide, please. Jennifer Dinkins was here. And we'll take small victories because small victories can build up to become big movements and big victories later. She spoke to us about fighting the incursion of Moms for Liberty and people like Ron DeSantis and Betsy DeVos into our public schools. Her organization had a high rate of success in keeping book banners off school boards in Florida and in Michigan.
Okay, wow.
Next slide, please. Now, we get to someone really special to us. And for whom we are especially grateful. From the start of her campaign, she's always been here with us and for us, and we have always been with her. And knowing her as we do, we know she's going to keep on fighting. Welcome, Barbie Harden Hall.
You guys were supposed to make me cry. Hello. 10 months ago, I stood in front of all of you, my very first campaign event ever, and kicked off this journey. And I keep saying it was not good, but we worked and we improved and we kept fighting. And I think we all accomplished things that we never ever thought possible when I began the fight for Florida's 11th congressional district 10 months ago in this room. We went from, it was always going to be a difficult fight. I was up against the longest serving politician in Florida history. I was up against somebody who has been ingrained in the system, had the backing of special interest groups and PACs that he sits on committees to make decisions for. And I was completely unknown. Nobody here in this room knew me. Nobody in my own local TVDC in Lake County knew me. And you all know why I decided to start this fight. When I lost my son and Daniel Webster felt that it didn't help his political career, so it didn't deserve any of his time. And starting that to where we ended, where not only did we get a visit by our second gentleman here in the Villages, but you all and your fight went worldwide and inspired and encouraged so many people. And it was amazing to see. And on election night, I was exhausted. I was absolutely exhausted. And going into that, everything was telling us, this is going to be an amazing night. The data people were telling me it's 52-48. It's so close. And I rented a hotel room. I was going to go to the Orange County watch party for the Democrats out there. And I remember like getting ready and I was just looking at the bed and I'm like, oh, it'd be so nice. So nice to just cap this off. I was like, this is a historical night, and even if it doesn't work out for me, we're gonna have so much to celebrate. And as I walk into the watch party, I'm looking at as the polls close, and the first thing I see, oh, Maxwell Frost reelected after like 5 minutes. And so everybody starts celebrating and everybody's excited, and I start to see the returns come in. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay, Orange County's not in yet. Let's wait, Orange County's not in. And then after about 20 minutes, I'm like, okay, it's not gonna happen. But there's still so much to celebrate. And I knew no matter what happened in my race, that was still gonna be the case. We put in the work, we did the fight, but there was still gonna be so much to celebrate. And it was within an hour that I started to see the faces, because there were races that we knew we would win to flip the supermajority in the state house, and there were worried faces everywhere. And then as the returns started coming in, and I was like, even after my race was called, like, I gotta go. I can't do this. I brought my kids, they were going crazy because I wanted them to experience this historical moment, and I just had to leave. And when the writing was on the wall, I was just devastated. I was thinking of my kids. I was thinking of what the next 4 years could lead to. And I have, even though the chair of the Florida GOP in the weeks before the race told me I was going to get crushed and should get back to the kitchen, and even as their executive director told me not to kill myself when I lost, and your state senator, Blaise Ingoglia, was trying to get people to take bets on how much I would lose by in the weeks preceding election day, I knew no matter what happened with me, there was still going to be a bright future. And that was devastating to not have. And it's still devastating. But we have some bright things that I don't think people were expecting. Florida's 11th congressional district had the largest Democratic swing in the state. We while most of the state went more red, we actually swung to the left 6.9 points. So not only did we overperform expectations here, but we also overperformed Democrats in the state. And that's something to be proud of. And that's something to keep fighting for. And we did it with a lot less money. And now we know what worked and what didn't work. I have the benefit of going across 4 counties and seeing what precincts I won, what precincts I didn't win, and what was done differently in those. And there's a very clear picture of what worked and what didn't work. And the fight continues. And we must all keep fighting. Because in 2 years, if they do have a trifecta, the House is still being decided, and please don't stop the fight. There are calls going on right now to cure ballots in some of these House races that are literally down to the hundreds of votes that we can maintain, or we can win control of the House. So please, if you can get on the phones and cure those ballots, now is the time. But we know what happens when there's a trifecta of one party during the midterms. And we have a lot to work for. And on Monday, it's 11/11. And hopefully there'll be a nice, exciting announcement on the race for Florida 11 in 2 years. So we did a lot in 10 months, but we can do a lot in 2 years and 10 months. So please keep working. We're going to have a harder time because now people had already counted Florida out. Now they're really going to count us out. And that's across the board. I feel like we have to get creative in how we fight for Florida in the future. We have to kind of think outside the box. But I already have some ideas for you guys out here in Sumter and the villages, and ways that we can make this more interesting and help you all out in your fight. So we're ready to keep doing the work. And I hope you guys are all with us on that fight. Thank you all for everything. Thank you.
That sounded a lot like an announcement of a candidacy to me. You heard it here first. Next slide, please. Y'all may remember this selfie. I imagine a lot of you are in it. Carlos Guillermo Smith, who was a senator-elect at that time and is now, of course, going to take office, could not be with us. He apologizes respectfully. He has to be in a Veterans Day parade in Orlando right now, so hopefully it's not raining. We know he'll continue to fight for us in the legislature. Next slide, please. All right, so locally, our county Democratic Party in Sumter, as well as those in Lake and Marion, went all out. And I suspect, again, many of you are in this photo, the drone photo. It's one of the few pictures that I've used in the buzz that was not taken by Mike Confey because he wasn't flying the drone. But if we asked him to, he probably would. So in my list of gratitude today, I would like you all to give a hand to the person who is everywhere all the time doing all of his committees. Like you really should sell some of those slideshow photos to people. Probably put them in frames. Here's Bob Bird from the Central TVDC.
I want to absolutely thank you all, firstly, for voting. And
going to get it at the right place where we don't get feedback. So thank you for voting. We were one of the counties that led the state in Democratic turnout. We had Lake County beat us this cycle, so good for you guys. Spread us out a little bit, which is a great thing. They're a bigger county. You know, in the last election, we led it, but frankly, I had said at that time, we preferred some of the big blue counties. We'd switch places with them because they had so much more Democratic voters. With your help and with the club's support, you were very generous in helping offset some of the rent at our headquarters. You were very generous in supporting some of our crazy activities that in part are up here. We had a blast this election cycle. We had 3 different cart caravans. We had Kamala Namanon, and I think this is a picture from, I don't know, this must be Kamala Palooza. I can't keep them straight. We had so much fun at our events with your help, with your support. And so we had Marion County got involved, Lake County got involved, we got involved. It was just a wonderful journey. Now, we need to stick together, and this morning is a wonderful example of how we are sticking together. Yes, Tuesday was not what we all had hoped for, but the fight is an important fight, and it's something that we need. They are gonna, you know, get way over their skis and do some crazy stuff. Like Dennis said earlier, it's not gonna be 4 years. They're at most gonna have 2 years of this nonsense, and hopefully we'll be able to take at least the House back and bring a stronger check, if not win the House outright. But everything is so close that we need to be ready when they overplay their hands. So stick together, take some time to decompress. The club is going through an election cycle and are looking for board members, so take some time and think about volunteering for that. After every presidential election, the DEC reorganizes and elects new officers, so we will be doing that also. So if you're looking for ways to help, both organizations can help. Both have a same common goal, but this is the fun group. So you're going to breakfast, you're going to lunches, you're playing golf together, you're playing pickleball, you're doing all kinds of fun stuff. The DEC is really the working arm of the party. You know, we're creating phone banks that Julian Timoner and his group is calling voters. We're having canvassing turfs and on and on and on. We're where the rubber meets the road. Both objectives, both organizations are important to what we do. Democrats love to be together, as you can see. So thank you all for your support. Thank you for voting, and let's stick together.
Thank you, Bob. And that is Kamala Namanon that was on that picture, because I was in the background cooking 450 hot dogs. Okay, grilling. Here's the next slide. Thank you, Rick. So Barbie mentioned curing, and the DNC has put out a call for volunteers to help for the next 10 days on virtual phone banks across the nation to help cure ballots in races that are not yet fully decided, particularly the House, but I think there's still a Senate race out there kicking around. What curing is briefly is somebody put in their ballot and for some reason it was rejected by the election officials. A lot of times it's a signature can't match up with the file, or a multiple vote household which got an absentee ballot. They might have put the ballots in the wrong envelopes. So they have a certain amount of time under the varying state laws to cure that ballot and fix it and have their vote count. So that is what these phone banks are for. And so in the buzz tomorrow, you'll see a link, and you can go into that link, and you'll go to the page that looks like this, and you can sign up for a shift. You can take whatever amount of time you want. The phone banks are running nationwide for like 12 hours a day. But they suggest if you can do 2 hours or 3 hours, you can do it any time of the day. You can split it up across the day so you don't get worn out. But these races are absolutely critical, especially if we're going to try to hold on or take the House, even if it's only by one seat. It's better than having Republicans control all three, Congress and the presidency. So if you're not too exhausted and depressed, this might be a good way to get reinvigorated. So thank you for considering that. You guys have just volunteered like it's been unbelievable how much work you've done. Thank you for that. Next slide, please. Okay, so it's that time of year. This is very timely when questions arise about Medicare and supplements and Advantage plans. That's way beyond my comprehension. But we have Villager Jim Bodenner, who's just the guy to hear from and to answer your questions. Jim?
Good morning. I'm here today to talk about Medicare, but before I do, I want to talk about a topic that's pretty close to my heart. We're approaching Veterans Day. Did you know that United States military veterans that are in financial need don't have access to dental services unless they're 100% disabled or were prisoners of war? That's shocking. It's unbelievable. I'm really proud to say about 3 years ago, I put together a program in partnership with a number of nonprofit organizations, including our Rotary Club, the Evening Rotary Club, the Villages, and a group called Langley Health Services, which is a nonprofit federally qualified healthcare organization. We're providing dental services to low-income individuals here in Central Florida with a $5 out-of-pocket cost for general dentistry, and the program we created will pay $800 toward the 7 dentures. We've served almost 900 veterans here in Central Florida. The program continues, and I could use help spreading the word. There's no one in this room that would qualify for dental services under this program. It's focused on low-income veterans. There are a lot of low-income veterans here in Central Florida. And anyway, see me afterward. I can show you how to get involved with this really worthwhile program. I'm here today to talk to you about a program that you probably don't understand. I'm here today to talk about Medicare. As you saw from my background information and that handout that I provided, I have a rather strange background, both professionally and in my business life. But one of the areas that I'm very, very passionate about is healthcare. I serve in a volunteer capacity as the president of the National Retiree Legislative Network, which is a national nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that advocates for legislation in Washington, D.C. that impact retirees. And one of those areas that I am the most outspoken about is in the area of Medicare. You know, a lot of us are not feeling really all that good this week. And I had a person I was talking to just recently, and I pointed out to this individual is there are a lot of things we can't control, but there's one thing we can control, and that is our own mental and physical health. And if we lose our mental and physical health, we've lost everything. And one of the things that we have to be doggone sure in ensuring our mental and physical health is the Medicare insurance that we all receive. Because there is an effort, a national effort, to change the rules with regard to Medicare. There's a national effort afoot to privatize Medicare. And we need to understand how our system works and what we can do to preserve the program that we have. I'd like to start out a presentation like this by, my goal today in the next 25 minutes is to educate you on the difference between an Advantage plan and a Medicare supplement, and to encourage you to stay politically active with regard to changes in the Medicare system. My wife has got some sign-up sheets. There is a newsletter that the National Retiree Legislative Network publishes. We'd love to have you on that. If you're willing to provide your name and email address, we'll get you on that newsletter. Stay tuned into what's happening. The NRLN is a nonpartisan organization, but they're focused on issues that impact every one of us. Stay focused, educate yourself, understand the system. But let me take a quick survey. How many folks in here, I'm not going to ask if you're all on Medicare, because I'm sure you all are. But how many folks in here have Medicare Advantage plans? How many have, are not 65 yet? Okay? Those are the ones that I want to talk to. How many have Medicare supplements? Okay. Anybody here in this room understand the difference between the two?
Yes.
Not many do. Let me try to explain the difference between the programs. When you turn 65, everyone is eligible for Medicare Part A. Medicare Part A covers things like hospitalization, those kinds of expenses. Medicare Part B covers outpatient services, doctor's visits, different kinds of therapies. But if all you had was Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B, you'd have a lot of co-pays and deductibles. You could have an enormous amount of liability if all you had was Part A and Part B. So what people do is they get a supplement. They get something to fill in those gaps between Medicare Part A and Part B. And they do it in one of two ways. They either acquire an Advantage plan, or they acquire a Medicare supplement and a separate drug card. Well, what's the difference? Joe Namath tells us that everyone should have a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan and get a free health club membership. All you got to do is watch the news. And the question I ask is, does Joe really know what he's talking about? And let me give you an example. There are 3 questions that you need to ask. Any plan that you've got, any Medicare plan you have to ask 3 questions, whether it's a supplement or an Advantage plan. Here are the 3 questions. I want to say the questions and I want to repeat them very slowly. What's the monthly premium that you're paying for the plan? Question number 1. What's the monthly premium? Question number 2. What are the maximum out-of-pocket co-pays and deductibles that you could incur in any one year? Okay? Let me say that again. What are the maximum co-pays and deductibles that you could incur in any one year? And question number 3, and in my opinion, the most important question, what are the rules on the use of hospitals and doctors? What I tell folks is apply the Mayo Clinic test to any plan that you've got. Or if you like the Cleveland Clinic test, or if you like the Shands test, or the Moffitt test, or the MD Anderson test. If one time in your life you wanted to go to one of the world-class healthcare providers here in the United States, can you get there under the plan that you have? Okay? To me, that's important. I'm not interested. If I want a health club membership, I'll go buy a health club membership. But if I want access to cardiac services, I'm going to go to Cleveland Clinic. Okay? So let's apply those 3 questions to a hypothetical Medicare Advantage plan and a hypothetical Medicare supplement. Question number 1, let's talk about an Advantage plan. You can get a Medicare Advantage plan, HMO here in the community for as little as $0 of additional out-of-pocket monthly premiums. Okay? Question number 1, you can get an HMO for $0 in premium, monthly premium. Question number 2, what's the maximum copay and deductible that you would incur for that Advantage plan? Well, it depends. Every HMO is going to be different. Every PPO is going to be different. The range could be from $2,000 to $3,000 up to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 of maximum copays and deductibles that you could incur in any one year. You have to look at the fine print of every single plan to answer that question. And those rules change every year. That the fine print in that Advantage plan changes every single year. What are the rules on the use of hospitals and doctors for that Advantage plan? You better look at the fine print because every Advantage plan is different. Particularly HMOs are a very, very defined finite network of doctors I can assure you, well, let me tell you what happened 2 years ago. Mayo Clinic, that second-rate healthcare provider here in the United States, hardly, one of the leaders in the world, sent out a letter to Advantage Plan holders here in Florida and said, essentially what it said was, if you have an Advantage Plan, don't bother to come and see us. This is Mayo Clinic speaking, okay? So now let's apply those 3 rules to a hypothetical Medicare supplement. And there are a number of Medicare supplements. I'm only going to talk about the Cadillac supplement, and that's the Medicare G supplement, G like in George. Used to be the F. You can't get the F anymore after January 1st, 2020. But so let's talk about either the F if you have it, if your grandfather if you have it, or the G plan. The answer to my first question, and you have to get that F or G plan on a separate drug card. So the answer to my first question is, what's the cost of that G plan? Well, age 65, you'll spend $150, $175 a month, somewhere in that range for that G plan. Throw in a drug card. Drug cards are relatively inexpensive. But let's say that the total cost of your G plan and drug card at age 65 is $200. Okay, let's keep it simple. So question number 1, $200. Question number 2, what are the maximum copays and deductibles that you could incur in any 1 year? The answer to that question is $200. You're going to pay the first couple $100 of out-of-pocket copays and deductibles under that G plan. If you have an F plan, you're not going to pay any out-of-pocket costs. But the G plan, let's just use for sake of discussion here, it's $200. After you make that $200 payment, you have 0 copays and deductibles. Okay? 0, none. What are the rules on the use of hospitals and doctors? The answer to that question is, there aren't any. There aren't any. You can go to any Medicare hospital, any Medicare provider that you want, anywhere in the United States. When you get there, they will welcome you with open arms. If you want to go to Mayo Clinic, you call Mayo Clinic, you schedule an appointment, you go there, you don't have any copays and deductibles. Cleveland Clinic, Shands. I hear a lot of discussion about healthcare services here in Central Florida. I'm here to tell you, we have some of the best healthcare services here in the country here in Florida. At Shands, at Mayo Clinics over in Jacksonville, you've got some first-class healthcare providers. The question is, can you access them if you need them? And what folks don't understand is that if you're in an Advantage plan, you may not be able to access those healthcare services. People tell me all the time, well, I'm going to sign up. Joe Namath told me, and I'm going to sign up for that. And I really want that silver sneakers or whatever it is. I'm going to sign up for it, but then down the road, I'll get sick, and I'll switch during open enrollment. We're in open enrollment right now. I'm going to switch to during open enrollment. I'm going to milk the system. I'm going to get that health club membership, that no premium HMO, and I'll just flip it to a Medicare supplement down the road if I ever have any problems. Well, here's what no one tells you. When you turn 65, you can get either a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medicare supplement, either one. You don't have to prove insurability. You can't be rated for the fact that you've got cardiac issues or whatever, medical issues. You can't be rated at a higher premium. But once a 1-year window closes, at your 66th birthday, once that 1-year window closes, you have made an irrevocable decision. I hear some groans. You have made an irrevocable decision. You cannot, as a matter of right, after that 1-year window closes, go from an Advantage plan to a Medicare supplement. You can apply. You can be turned down if you've got any pre-existing conditions. If you've got a cancer diagnosis or a cardiac diagnosis, guaranteed you'll be turned down. They can rate you at a higher rate, but you cannot, as a matter of right, move from an Advantage plan to a Medicare supplement after that window closes. Now there's some exceptions to the rules, and I make a sporting event out of guiding people through the exceptions to the rules. We were talking earlier about one of the exceptions to the rules is you live in Florida, you're in an HMO, You move to another state that doesn't honor that HMO. When that occurs, you have what's called special enrollment rights to rewind the clock back to age 65 and to either elect an Advantage plan or a Medicare supplement. So there are some exceptions to the rules. Please talk to me offline. Like I said, I love to guide people through the exceptions to the rules. But it is really, really important that the decision that you make at age 65, that you think it through very, very carefully. I often speak to groups as a volunteer. I've spoken to law firms, I've spoken to financial planning groups, and I love when I talk to lawyers, because I'm a lawyer myself, and I get these really smart lawyers in front of you, and you tell them that, I'm here today to talk to you about a financial planning and estate planning issue you don't know anything about. You ought to see the stares that I get from these estate planning lawyers. And what kind of guy is this talking to me about something I don't know anything about? If financial planning has something to do with cash flow, and if estate planning has something to do with getting money from one generation to another, then the decision that you make for Medicare is a financial planning and estate planning decision. When I say it that way, it's like, the lawyers do a double take and, finish listening to my statement. But it's true, because it's all about cash flow, it's all about access to health care that is so important in the Medicare system. I published a press release a couple of weeks ago. It's on the back side of that handout. Here is what's happening. Advantage plans are in trouble. And this press release was written to me by lobbyists that the NRLN has in Washington. And the numbers cited in my article says that the Advantage plan companies are kicking 1 million people off of Advantage plans right now, this month. And the New York Times did a follow-up story after I published my press release. Their number was up to 1.8 million. You really don't know. Nobody's reporting to anybody on what companies are kicking people off Advantage plans. So the only thing we know is what's publicly, when Humana reports to stockholders they're kicking whatever the number is in my press release, I think it's 600,000. That's how we find out if they're terminating people from Advantage plans. And here's what they're doing. Advantage plans are for-profit corporations, okay, that are paid a capitated rate to take care of your health care. Well, they were killing it at age 65. When we were all 65, they were killing it. They were getting that capitated rate and taking care of your health care, and everything was going really well. The problem is, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, and their health care costs are going up. They're getting that same capitated rate. They're losing money in certain zip codes around the United States, and what do? They're terminating people. They've got the right to not renew that contract. They're terminating people from those Advantage plans to the tune of, the last number we have is 1.8 million people. Okay? Now, under federal law, so 1.8 million people are getting a letter from their insurance company saying, sorry, we're not going to renew that policy. It's really not, we're not really making money on it. But don't worry. We have this really cool plan over here. Doesn't include silver sneakers, but and a few other cuts. But we'll slide you right into this other plan. Don't worry about it. That's the kind of reaction we think we're getting. We're not taking a survey of all 1.8 million people. But federal law requires that when they're terminated from a plan, the company notify the person that they're being terminated and that they have these special enrollment rights, these guaranteed issuance rights to get into either a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medicare supplement without proving insurability. So there are a lot of people, we don't know where those 1.8 million people are. We know they're here somewhere in the United States. I suspect there's some, maybe in this room, they got one of those letters. If you get one of those letters, don't panic, celebrate. If you get one of those letters and you're on an Advantage plan, don't panic, celebrate. Because now you've got special enrollment rights to go back and to get a Cadillac Medicare supplement, and a Cadillac would be the G plan, G like in George plan. I'm always afraid to say this in groups because I know in a group this big, there are insurance agents looking me in the eye. So I'll soften my statement a little. But I'm always reluctant to see people get advice. Oh, you're gonna hate me. I'm always reluctant to see people get advice from their insurance agents. Because insurance agents are selling Medicare Advantage plans. And, that is fine if people buy Medicare. If you want an Advantage plan, that's wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. And there's some of the PPOs that aren't bad, all right? But make sure you understand the difference. Make sure you understand the difference between an Advantage plan and a Medicare supplement, and make sure you understand that when you make that decision, particularly, I saw a few hands that were not quite 65 yet. Make sure, before you turn 65, that you are informed, that you understand the choice that you're making, and that you understand that decision may be an irrevocable decision. Understand it, think it through. So I stand in front of a group like this often, and a few people will look daggers at me and say, thanks for this great information. Why didn't you tell me this 10 years ago? And to that I say, well, if you're in an Advantage plan, you don't have any way to come up with an argument that you've got special enrollment rights, don't panic. If you're in an HMO, panic. And look at, during open enrollment, getting out of that HMO and getting into a Medicare Advantage PPO. A PPO is also an Advantage plan, but it does give the person that has the PPO the right to go out of network and pay a higher copay and deductible. And again, if you're looking to apply the Mayo Clinic test, apply it to a PPO, because you could go out of network, pay the higher copay and deductible, and not be locked into a defined finite network of doctors. So look at, during open enrollment that we're in right now, look at the PPO, and you can look at these policies every year because they change every single year. Let me touch, and I'm available, again, as a volunteer. I talk to people, I talk to groups like this all the time. I talk to individuals all the time. I do it strictly as a volunteer, and to try to share, my background with anyone that's interested in listening. You won't get the politically correct statement from me. You ask my opinion, and I will give you my opinion. And I'm not going to qualify it, but you do what you want to do. Just do it as an informed decision. But let me talk about what's happened. Let's talk about what's in the political arena in the last year that affects every single one of us. Every single one of us. We have gone through decades and decades and decades of, there's 60 million of us on Medicare. That's a fairly big market, right? Up until the first of this year, it was illegal for Medicare to negotiate with the pharmaceutical companies the cost of prescription drugs. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 60 million people, you go to Pfizer, I'd like to buy, 60 million doses of that blue pill that your Pfizer sells. And Pfizer's, but I can't negotiate the price, so what are you going to charge me, on Medicare? What are you going to charge? No negotiations at all. As of the first of this year, under the legislation that was passed by the support of, who supported it, Medicare can start negotiating the cost of 10 prescription drugs. Those 10 drugs will go into effect, the new cost will go into effect in a year. The drug prices have been negotiated for those 10 drugs, and my understanding, I saw the list of the drugs, but the average reduction in those 10 drugs is about 65%. And saving the taxpayers about $50 billion, okay, a year. That's a lot of money. The list of drugs will increase over the next 2 or 3 years. the additional drugs will be added unless the law changes, okay? And this is why, sign up for that sheet going around. Sign up, get your email on there, and stay tuned into the political action newsletter that the NRLN sends out. If legislation changes, this could be reversed, right? Other big developments, I suspect there's some people in here on insulin. Insulin cap was capped this year at $35 a month. Yeah, big deal. Wonder who signed that law into effect.
Joe, that's Joe.
Even bigger than that's a big deal for those in this room taking insulin. There's a huge thing happening January 1st of 2025 that probably most of you haven't heard about. The total out-of-pocket cost for someone on Medicare is going to be capped at a maximum of $2,000 a year. Anybody who doesn't think that's a big deal hasn't had, my wife Sue and I have a daughter that takes a drug that costs about $100,000 a year. Okay? And she's on Medicare because she's 100% disabled. This law will apply to her. I did have to double check to make sure that even though she wasn't 65, does it apply to her? Yes, it does. But anyone on Medicare will see their drugs capped at $2,000 a year. Watch the legislation. That could change. There could be legislation that could reverse that, okay? There was so much criticism, there was so much, and you understand how that law got passed. It's important. We can't control all the things going on around us. What we can do, though, is control our own physical and mental health, and we can become politically astute and sensitive to things that affect our health care. If we don't have our health care, you guys can't go out and volunteer for anything. You can't look at other issues if you don't have your own health care. If you don't have your own mental and physical health. And key to that is the Medicare insurance that we all cherish very much. In one closing note, I'm personally thankful. My wife and I made the decisions on our health care back a few years ago. I went through turned out very successfully went through it, but a serious cardiac scare here in the last year. I was able to access some of the best healthcare folks in the country, and I'm on a better physical condition today than I've been in 20 years. But I was able to access healthcare, out-of-state healthcare, without having to worry about what the financial repercussions of that decision were going to be. I got it. I got very expensive healthcare. My total out-of-pocket cost for that expensive healthcare was $0. Okay. Please, just in conclusion, none of you lose hope. Focus on your own healthcare. Focus on your own physical and mental health, and don't let anyone change our Medicare system. Don't let anyone change our Social Security system. Those are things that we've worked all of our lives for, and we need to stay focused on in the years going forward. Thank you very much.
That's some good advice. All right, next slide, please. All right, so gratitude being the theme carrying throughout. The board is grateful for how you responded every time we asked you to do something, sign up for something, attend something. You were there, so give yourselves a hand. Next slide, please. It was mentioned earlier, we do have a new board open enrollment, if you will, for applications to be on the board. And we are the fun group, as Bob Berg pointed out. But we know we all do some of that political work as well on the side. But here we are, here's the schedule. The new board takes office in April of next year. The voting by the membership takes place at our annual vote is in March. We have to be here in the room to vote. A slate is presented in January of candidates who have been interviewed and vetted. And those candidates are interviewed this month and next by a nominating committee. So the nominating committee is appointed by the president. And here are the names. If you're in the room, please stand up so people know who you are. Bill Bankowski, Judith Bissett. Oh, they want to remain anonymous. Allison Birch. I know you're here. Dave Goodman and Louise Goodman. Okay, and they'll remain a mystery to us. Okay, but they'll be the ones interviewing anyone who steps forward. Next slide, please. Here's what we need and how to apply. We're going to need a new president. We're going to need a new vice president, a treasurer, a director of technology, and the most important one of all to me, the buzz editor. So I know some of you could do this work. So I would like you to think about applying to join the board and at least submit to the interview or at least email me and say, if I were to apply to do this position and get elected to it, what's the job? What do I have to do? So there's my email. You also see it in the buzz every Sunday, so it'll be there tomorrow with some of this information. Like pretty much everybody who's ever been on the board, it starts with you come to a meeting like this and you realize, I'm interested in helping out a little more. What can I do? And I have a certain background or a certain skill set, or I just have enthusiasm and ideas. And so you put yourself up to be selected and you get elected and then off you go. So we absolutely want as many candidates as possible to select from. And there's no losers here. The people who don't get selected are still, of course, active club members helping in any way they can. And what we do is when someone is, say, the leader of the tech team, they have a small team of volunteers who do a lot of the help and support. For example, our director of technology couldn't be here today, so Rick Dawson is sitting in, taking care of the slideshow. Just like he shows up at every event and hooks up all the sound systems and makes sure we have good music. So thank you to Rick. Next slide, please. The holiday party. Okay, so a week from next Friday, I guess it is, Friday the 22nd, is our annual holiday party. It is a buffet dinner and live music. And the tickets are relatively cheap at $35. You get your choice of a couple of entrees or a vegetarian meal. And all you have to do is go to the website and follow the prompts. And the link will be in the buzz, as it has been for a little while. We're about half sold, and we would love to see you. So come join us and have some fun. Dancing is optional, bring your own booze. Next slide, please. You notice I keep moving this later and later in the meeting to encourage people to stay, who bought tickets. So we have the basket here. All right, I'm going to draw, just because it'll be convenient, and I'll eliminate myself from the pool. So if I draw my own ticket, I will not win. All right, there are 2 envelopes today. Uh-oh, it's glasses time. Those are really small numbers. 5, 6, 0, 4, 0, 0, 1. Anybody? Going once? Twice? Okay, we'll try another one.
Somebody in the back.
Somebody has it? Okay. I'll bring it to you. All right, the 560-3996. Anybody? 96? Okay, going in again. 289-484. Ah, there we go, winners. All right, congratulations to the winners. All right, I mentioned the way that I deal with bad news, stress, anxiety, and ward off depression is through humor. So the day after the election, I had a doctor's appointment. It was routine, but while I was checking out, I noticed that the checkout person on her desk had one of those calendars with a funny saying on each page. So the one I'm about to show you set me to giggling. Next slide, please. So, laughter truly is the best medicine, I'll say that. But being me, I looked this quote up. It sounded like wild. I have a copy of the Devil's Dictionary on my bookshelf. But Snopes provided the answer, and the answer is no, it's not Oscar Wilde. It is, however, contemporaneous to when he was writing his 50 epigrams. It appeared in a London magazine called The Stretch. So there you go, we all learned something. It's still funny. So, in conclusion, go forth, my friends, with gratitude. We have much to be thankful for. Last slide, please. Goodbye, y'all.